Hello and welcome back to another edition of Check It Out. Okay friends, in today's video, my 2007 Honda Pilot, the timing belt broke. I'll explain to you the process of what happened. I'll let you know the mistakes that I made, and boy did I ever make a few. I will let you know the options that I have and how much they cost, including replacing the engine, fixing the damaged engine, and I'll let you know where we sit right now. I'll also show you how I confirmed on my own what the problem was. So let's back up a couple steps here. So first of all, this is an 07 Honda Pilot and I have 187,000 miles on it. I have taken extremely good care of it, and you can see that in some of my other videos that I have made. So if you subscribe to this channel, look at the playlist under Honda Pilot. I've got a whole bunch of videos changing the transmission fluid, so on and so forth. But here is the mistake I made. The first timing belt, I changed it at roughly 100,000 miles. Actually, it was 105,000 miles. Now that was from the factory, and I actually pushed it a little bit further than I should have on that timing belt. The second timing belt, like I said, I changed it at 105 and it broke while I was driving at 187. So that means that there was 82,000 miles on this second timing belt. So here's what it felt like. I was driving home and I had two of my three kids in the car, and just out of nowhere, there was not a loud snap or something like that. I had it in cruise control going about 50 miles on sort of a back road, and just out of nowhere, the vehicle lost power. And just completely lost power. And I was driving along, and I even tried to restart the engine. I thought the engine had turned off. And I tried to restart the engine, and what I was thinking is something went wrong with a minor electrical problem, or maybe I was thinking the fuel pump is what the problem was. So I pulled over to the side of the road. Again, I have my two kids. The timing belt was just not even, it didn't even dawn on me that it could possibly be that. So on the side of the road, I tried to start the vehicle about another 2 or 3 times. I popped the hood, tinkered around, tried another 2 or 3 times to start the engine. That's where my damage occurred. So I had this towed to my house. After watching Scotty Kilmer, I purchased one of these code readers, and this was pretty inexpensive. I'll put a link down in the description to this code reader right here. I plugged it in, and sure enough, it popped up this code right here, P0340. And I did a little homework on what that could possibly mean. It could mean a few different things going on, but what it can definitely mean is timing belt problems. Something's wrong with the timing. So if you see this code and you're pushing it as far as how many miles on your timing belt, this might be your mistake right here. So this was my first piece of evidence that all of a sudden I went from thinking this is a fuel pump. Also on the Honda vehicles, there is a relay, like a main relay, which can sometimes cause problems, and that malfunctions, and therefore you don't get fuel. That's what I was hoping for, but this, pulling up this P0340, confirmed that this was timing belt, or at least it made me about 80 to 85% sure it was timing belt. So now that I've read the code, and I'm pretty sure it's timing belt, I tried to take off these 2 covers that cover up the timing belt, and I have to say they were very, very challenging to get off. So if you're going to do this on your own, make sure you've got to have a good set of tools. There were several sockets that had to be a certain size with certain extensions. It was pretty challenging. I ended up getting the top 2 covers off. That bottom cover that you see on this picture right here, I did not get off. Okay, so this is what I could see right here. You can see it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of damage there. In fact, you can't see anything at all, except that when I checked the tension on that timing belt, there was no tension on one part of it. Part of it did have tension, but another part of it clearly did not have tension on it, meaning that it either stripped or broke. That part was pretty deep down in the engine, so I never actually saw exactly where it tore or ripped at this point. But I could definitely tell this is where my problem was. It wasn't a fuel pump, it wasn't a relay, it wasn't a fuse or anything like that. That would have been hopefully easier. This was, in fact, the timing belt had failed in one way or another. Now, this is a 2007 Honda Pilot, and this is a timing belt on an interference engine. And if you don't know what that means, check it out and look it up. But basically what it means is those pistons can hit the valves if the timing is not correct. So on a non-interference, it really wouldn't be a big deal. You just change the timing belt, put in a new water pump, you're on your way for $1,000, maybe $1,200. But with this interference engine, the pistons can hit the valves and bend them. and that can lead to all kinds of problems. Now you've got pretty serious engine problems, and that's exactly what happened in my case. So at this point, I watched a whole bunch of YouTube videos and basically found out that I may or may not have damaged the engine, and that one way to figure that out is to put a timing belt on it, probably throw in a new water pump as well, start up the engine, cross your fingers, and see if I've done any damage to it. Now, after thinking this through and knowing that my timing belt broke at speed, and I like coasted along finding a safe spot, and I restarted my engine several times, at least I tried to, that I was very likely had damaged my engine. So this is an interference engine, and very good chance I had done that. So what I did is I called the local mechanic, who was very reputable, Honda only, and he walked through the scenario, and he's like, you know, you've probably damaged the engine. I can't tell you that for sure until you bring it in. I can diagnose it for roughly $200 and let you know if it's in fact the timing belt, and more importantly, if you've done any damage to it, and then we can talk and see what we can do. Sure enough, he came back to me the next day and said, hey, you've damaged the engine. It's the timing belt. You've at least bent a few of the valve stems, and likely even more than that by the story I was giving him. So he said, here's the three options that you've got. Number one, we can fix the engine for $4,900 roughly. Number two, we can replace the engine for you for roughly $6,000. Or option number three is I can help you try to sort of salvage the vehicle, junk the vehicle, however you want to state that. And we didn't really discuss how much money I would get for that. My gut instinct is telling me somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000, maybe make it a mechanic special and let someone, maybe even this mechanic himself, try to fix it and then flip it. I don't know exactly how that would go. So after talking it through with him, I decided that I'd like to go ahead and fix this vehicle. Now, part of the reason I decided to fix it is that I've always taken really good care of this vehicle, other than waiting too long to change out this timing belt, obviously. But oil changes, transmission fluid, all the other fluids have been done on schedule or early. Even down to like the tires, you know, they're nice Michelin tires. Just everything that I did to this vehicle, if I had a choice, I spent the extra money on it, and I felt like it was a good investment for me to go ahead and fix this engine instead of trying to flip it or put in a new engine. So long story short, friends, I guess maybe it's not so short, but this is my story with this. And the main reason I was kind of saying this one is, you know, it's worth your time to figure out, do you have a timing chain? I have a couple Toyota vehicles, those have a timing chain. So all I really have to do is make sure I change that oil to keep that chain well lubricated with clean oil, and I'm kind of good to go. And some vehicles, even some of the Toyota models, still have timing belts. And again, this is an 07 Honda Pilot with a timing belt. And again, if you do your homework, you should know if you have a chain or a belt, and you should know if your engine is interference or non-interference. So this one is the perfect storm. It is a belt, which can snap and break, and it's an interference engine, which means that if it snaps and breaks, there's a good chance it's going to do damage to your engine. If you see this code, P0340, in a Honda Pilot, any Honda vehicle, maybe even some other makes too, but especially in the Honda, if you see that, be thinking, hey, is this timing belt? It doesn't mean it's timing belt for sure, but you know, I hear some people on the forum that see this code and they start going and messing around with the fuel pump. They start messing around with relays and these different things. So make sure that timing belt is taken care of if you see this code. Hey friends, I hope this video helps you out in some way or another. Hopefully you didn't just have your timing belt snap, break, and do damage to your vehicle like mine did. And again, I think I told you that the option I went with, pay the $4,900 and cross my fingers that I can get another 3 or 4 or 5 years out of this vehicle. But that's what I ended up doing, and I figured, you know what, a new payment would be somewhere between $300 and $500 a month. Every single month for 5 years is probably what I'd end up doing. And for this to pay $5,000, and I really have not had to do a whole lot of work to this vehicle other than kind of regular maintenance, but very, very little for 187,000 miles. So for me, I think that makes sense. Anyway, leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear your story too if you have something like this going on. All right, friends, we'll see you next time. Hey, if this video helped you out, give it a thumbs up, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, check out that Honda playlist, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.